AnimeIndecision.
Greetings, I'm Demonac.
And I'm Orestria, and this is AI Tries Ajin, episode 7, in which I nearly fell asleep.
This was not their finest episode. As much as there were things moving along, we did learn a number of things. I don't know, it just somehow wasn't quite as compelling. Hard to put a finger on why.
They got a lot of setup done, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a lot happened. I felt like even when they were trying to give us some character background on Tazaki, which I really wanted, it felt like it was really ineptly done.
So, Kenny basically wasn't in the episode, and that has nothing to do with why it was weaker. He'll be back. We would have been perfectly happy to find out what Sato is up to and what Tazaki is, all about.
They were only going to give him 30 seconds at the end. They could have just left him out. We're not worried about if he's dead or not. He's an Ajin.
He'll wash up somewhere. It's fine.
We were already assuming he was going to wash up somewhere. All they did was show us 30 seconds of him washing up somewhere. We didn't need that.
We learned that drowning sucks. Good to know.
Now I know not to try it.
We both really wanted to learn more about Tazaki, the white-suited inspector, the ministry guy, he was definitely a figure of authority. He was very mysterious, and
he's clearly been set up as being very important. Even though he hasn't done a good goddamn thing, you can tell the show is saying this guy is really important, you need to pay attention to him.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a theory that maybe if they're doing this psychopath thing, that he would be a counterpart to Kenny, and that he was a psychopath who may or may not have morals, and I think that's kind of what they were trying to reveal here, although, yeah. Okay, we learned that the ministry that he works for, the small agency of the government, small but powerful, is run by a bunch of gangsters who are basically abusing Ajin to make money.
And to me, this makes it way less interesting. To me, it's actually more interesting to just have it be a government who wants to run experiments on these people because of the vast applications to science and technology that they could get from being able to use test subjects like this. Because there it's a bit more gray. You understand why the government's doing this. The government could be saving billions of lives by doing this. They could discover the cure for cancer by, infecting an Ajin with cancer and trying out all sorts of ways to fix them.
Yeah, so you can get into that argument about, obviously what they're doing isn't really moral, but is it equally immoral to not take advantage of it if the gains are so potentially great?
For the greater good. But now we just have, nope, they're fucking crooks. It's way less interesting.
Yep. So they brought Tazaki in on their conspiracy, and they let him know that, hey, you play your cards right, you can make tons and tons of money. And then we find out his tear-wrenching backstory. His fiancée is in the hospital.
So far in the goddamn show. Oh my god.
His fiancée is in the hospital. He needs surprisingly large amounts of money to save her. So he's going to be her white knight. And he does this, in this episode in particular, after he's threatened by the organization. He does it by wandering out, straight up murdering a guard, and taking prisoner the American scientist.
Yeah. Which I thought was really funny because last episode he made a big deal about his Ajin lady.
Detective not dead.
I can't even read my notes right now. He made a big deal about her staying with him so he'd be safe, and then he just wanders around the compound without her. And yeah, he was
I think it's because he got that phone call. They not only suggested that his position in the organization was in great danger because his performance had not been as expected, but they made it sound like maybe he won't actually survive their punishment. So if he thought that he was already dead, I think that he made the calculation that, first off, if he got killed going out and trying to rectify the situation, he was already probably dead, so it's fine. And he knew that whatever he was going to do, he probably wouldn't be able to retain the loyalty of his pet Ajin if she saw what he was about to do.
Shimamura did not seem impressed to see that he'd kidnapped Ogura.
Yeah.
Although, I totally misunderstood that scene. I thought she thought that he was about to turn her over or something. I thought that's why she was upset at first.
Again, the episode was a little bit disjointed. They seem to be trying to do a sort of juxtaposition between things that Sato was saying and showing us Tazaki's background and history, but yeah, it didn't work out really that well.
It was not. Oh God, I really didn't like that episode much.
There,
I'm excited for the Ajin uprising that Sato's trying to set up, but
he had his news conference. I was like, okay, that's a strange direction that he wants to go, but he could be getting a lot of sympathy from this, and maybe he'll get a bunch of people that show up to his thing, and then explosions, and I'm like, nobody's gonna come to your thing now. What are you doing?
you ruined your news cycle. Everyone's gonna be talking about the explosion.
Even though it didn't look very effective, looked like they just planted bombs on the roof. Whee!
They just wanted some fireworks. Japanese people love fireworks displays, man.
But then he came out later and said, yeah, that wasn't for the humans. And then it was like, oh, I guess that makes more sense. And I would say it was kind of cool that you have this protest where nobody shows up, and then they show us the Ajin's view, and there are all these Ajin who have gathered there. And of course, they can see each other. It's very smart and it's kind of cool. But yeah, ultimately that didn't do much in the episode other than make us feel weird for a while when he was acting up.
I also liked the discussion of Sato's proof that the Ajin were being experimented on, where people were saying, well, there's so many faked videos of that online that no one can tell the difference. And then the reveal that, a real Ajin can tell the difference because a real Ajin knows what it looks like when an Ajin reforms.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those things where it seemed like kind of a fail, and then they're like, no, we totally thought this through.
And I really, really liked the touch that Sato didn't think he had to prove that he was an Ajin to those news reporters. He didn't, kill himself to show off, because technically there's no evidence at all that he actually is an Ajin, so he's not going to have the same kind of manhunt that the official Ajin have.
That's what it seems like. But yeah, they did the Tazaki exposition. It seemed pretty clumsy overall. But I do think they lent very strongly to my theory that, based on what we've seen, Tazaki, like Kenny, is a psychopath, but he also chose something in his life that this is going to be the thing that was going to redeem him, that would make him good. And I think he chose this woman to invest in, say, I will do whatever it takes for her. She's going to be the good thing in my life. Then she gets sick, and he's not about to change his position.
If Tazaki turns out to be an Ajin, I quit the show, by the way.
Yeah, that would be really weak-ass. Really weak. I don't think they're going to go there, though. As much as they might annoy us sometimes, I really think that their overall structure and planning is good, and that would be a pretty stupid reveal. Although, it's arguable, right? What if he was an Ajin, but he really didn't know? Because you don't know until you die the first time. So if he found out later on that he was an Ajin, it would still be bullshit.
Specifically what I'm scared of.
Yeah.
You have explained exactly what I'm afraid of, that he doesn't know he's an Ajin, and then, he dies, and then he comes back, and I'm just like, I'm out, show, I'm done.
Yeah. No, you may have a point there, because framed in that way, I can see that being something that maybe the writers would think was clever, even though it would be just total bullshit and bad writing at this point.
I'm not saying I think they're going there. I'm just saying if they do go there, that will be my last episode.
That's a pretty good case for a way that it could happen, and it would be a terrible sign that all the good stuff it looks like they've been putting together might actually just unravel and turn into garbage. And we did see some cracks this episode, but it's not to shake my expectation that there's a lot of good stuff to come.
I mean, for me, we already had the character we thought was human who died, who turned out to be an Ajin reveal. I think it would be really poor if they decided to try and use that trick again.
Yeah, it would be the same thing twice, and it would rob you of that. There's a power to that character who doesn't have the superpowers, and especially if, unlike Jesus, Tazaki does not turn out to be like a martial arts expert, or he's like a super sniper or something like that. He's just a competent human being. If he's a character who can make things happen and really drive the narrative and the events without the supernatural cred, that makes him much stronger. That makes the show much stronger by having that sort of difference.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And then I have one other thing I was thinking about. I was thinking about Tanaka this episode.
Mm-hmm.
God, he's lame. Yeah. He just goes along with whatever Sato says without even getting an explanation for it.
Doesn't even
And
know in advance. Just like pretend to be asleep. He's like, okay.
he didn't know there was going to be a press conference. He didn't know that, like, he
I
didn't
thought we
even
were
know it was
just
going to
planting
be an Ajin
explosives.
meeting until like 5 minutes before the meeting, it looks like. And I get why the show's doing this. The show needs someone for Sato to talk to, for Sato to exposit to, so we know what Sato's thinking. But what the hell is Tanaka thinking? Like,
I mean,
what?
Tanaka is, in theory, just grateful to be out of there, not be tortured anymore, and he obviously wants to get in some, like, killing and rough stuff. But yeah, he seems like an incredibly weak character, and maybe that's the point
See,
of him, though.
for me, if I'm Tanaka, yes, I'm grateful to Sato, but seeing the shit Sato does, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that Sato would put me back in if it furthered Sato's plots. So I want Sato to tell me his fucking plots before I agree to them. Tanaka's like full on just a simple pawn, and I don't know. Somehow that seems really strange considering there's only like 3 confirmed Ajin in Japan, and one of them is just semi-irrelevant.
But on the other hand, I mean, he was the one that just got captured and hung out there. Maybe we're gonna find some new Ajin next episode from The Gathering who are way more interesting.
Yeah. Well, we friggin' hope so, or else there's no point to this gathering and everything's
Yeah.
going down the hole.
So I guess we'll just have to find that out next time.
Bye bye.
Please click the legendary like button. And check out our dorky, argumentative anime reviews on AnimeIndecision. And yeah, we saw some cracks this episode, and also your camera appears to have frozen on my end. But I think
Oh
there
my
you are.
god!
There you are.
Did you hear my Vader no?
No.
Oh my god, when everything froze, I went, no!